What made you want to write the letter to Dr. Tedros?
I think with this pandemic situation, among some few countries, Taiwan is doing very well. We believe that this needs some solution by the World Health Organization. We think that the World Health Organization is not a political body, an agency from the United Nations that is responsible for, together with governments, to enforce the health around the globe. And as the Sustained Development Goals says, no one needs to be left behind. So I think Taiwan also needs not be left behind. That's the thinking that we at the World Medical Association are considering when we decided to write a letter to Dr. Tedros.
One of the sentences in this letter, you say, "We urge you to make such a step and not allow the WHO to become involved in any more political games." Could you talk just a little bit more about your thoughts on that?
We know that the World Health Organization is acting around the world, together with local governments. And Taiwan is not recognized by the United Nations as a country. And China is pushing very hard for one country policy. So I believe that WHO in the last few years are under pressure to not include Taiwan in their activities, even as observers, because of the political interest to be close to China, not to go against the best interests of the government of China. And that's what I and others at the World Medical Association were naming as a political game at the WHO. But I think then when we are dealing with health and science, we do not have to include politics on that situation.
Has Dr. Tedros or the WHO given you a response to the letter?
Not yet. Well, actually, this was not the first time that we have done that. We have sent, similar letters, I believe, for the last 2 years, in 2019 and 2018 at least. We never received a response.
What is your opinion of Taiwan's measures to combat COVID-19? Because I know you did mention that Taiwan has done very well in preventing the spread.
I think the big success that Taiwan had against the pandemic was the preventive measures that they adopted at the first moment. I remember to read a report that in the last day of December, when they take knowledge of what was happening in the Wuhan province in China, they established on that last day of last year on-board quarantine in the flights that were coming directly from Wuhan. 2 days later, in the very beginning of January, they established a response team to the coronavirus. And I think in the middle of January, they established a central epidemic command center trying to integrate all the informations and resources from different ministries in Taiwan to face the pandemic. And then the first measure of on-board quarantine was amplified to other kinds of border control. Besides that, they also established a fever screening for passengers, adopted health declarations that everyone needs to fill, and people coming from areas where there are many reports of COVID-19 cases, they established that 14 days home quarantine for those people. Following that, those people were in a way tracked, even by GPS through mobile phones, to see if they are respecting the confinement in a way put in place. And I think this was the major measures that contribute for a very few tests. Up to now, it's almost 50,000 people tested in Taiwan. And since the beginning up to some days ago, when I read the last report, they have very few cases in Taiwan. I think less than 400 cases. And most of them was not domestic cases, were people coming from abroad to the country. So, these strict measures were very effective to control the dissemination of the virus. And I think that they have less than 10 people died, which is astonishing, considering what is happening in some other countries. So I think those initial and very early preventive measures were very much effective, to not allow the epidemic, enter in the country in a massive way. So I think that was a major success in fighting the coronavirus.
Is there anything you'd like to say, because a lot of our audience is in Taiwan. Would you like to say anything to the people of Taiwan, like any kind of message for them?
We at the World Medical Association, we have a long-standing relation with the Taiwanese Medical Association and the Taiwanese physicians. I believe that what we are observing in this difficult time of COVID-19 spread around the world is how an effective public health policy as the one adopted in Taiwan on behalf of the Taiwanese people is very important, and I believe is an example for many countries in the world. So I would say to the Taiwanese people that considering the physicians and the public policy on health and the universal health coverage that you enjoy in your country, you are in a very good hands. And I'm sure that World Health Organization will have to recognize the importance of taking those examples as this one from Taiwan to apply in other countries around the world that need effective measures as those adopted by the Taiwanese government some weeks ago.
Well, thank you so much. That's the end of my questions. Unless you have anything else you'd like to add.
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm fine.